you have all of these pressures building up at once, and more, like let's say like in the United States as an example, like the democracy itself in the United States is teetering on the edge. And so you have this system, you have like the neoliberal economic order, and that's housed and cemented with the American version of democracy. And that entire system is cracking like it's never cracked before. And I think what's occurring is then you have many people in the stereotypical suburban box in the repeated house, right? It's such a cliche at this point. And now people are in those boxes. And I think COVID really accelerated this. Like, here I am with no self-sufficiency whatsoever, like none. And my only lifeline is through this economic model that I'm more and more seeing has made everyone into a bee. We're all bees doing the exact same thing, and it's completely disconnected people from right livelihood. And I think that AI and the acceleration of the advanced technologies is just turbocharging that even more. And then you have the collapse of governments as we know it. And then you have the collapse of the macroeconomic system. And then you have climate change and, like, unfortunately, the next worst fire, the next worst hurricane. And people already are like, how the hell do I opt out of this world? How do I actually build this other thing? Well, we can't do it by putting our heads in the sand, and we can't do it by fighting anything. We actually only do it, it occurs to me at least, coming into coherence with ourselves, moving beyond the fear, and then coming together as a community and saying, okay, now what? And I think that's going to happen a lot more in the coming years.
This bipolar argument that we get presented, which I've never really liked, and I've never really felt like I fit into, it seemed like just such a narrow box that it's a this or that. Like, if everything collapses, then we all suffer because of it. But I don't think that that's really the way evolution works. I think evolution is much more like the way you see a tree, where there's a direction and then a branch branches off and another branch goes this way and another branch goes that way, and they're not all the same size. I think we see that same kind of concept with the flow of a river, that ultimately it takes many different paths. And so I think as these pressures take place, and I agree with you that the macro system is showing stress cracks, it's showing fractures all over the place. I think really underneath the weight of extreme greed by a very small percentage of people that are really exacerbating and accelerating the nature of that stress, that ultimately what comes from it is tremendous creativity, because the life force within us wants to continue. And the social culture of that life force is really looking for what we think of as a stable life, I think, or a better life. And I've questioned at which point do people start to make new choices and new decisions and start to get really creative about it. And I came up with the idea, I coined sort of the phrase for myself called the third. Instead of this or that, there's some other option. It's just the third option. I don't know what it is yet because I've only been presented this or that. But what it's showing me in this case is that Cohere is providing a notion of one of those third options, which is, here's a way where you can live within a community, a collective ownership, but it's not divorced from the other systems, and it's also not fully embroiled in the other systems. There's this hybridization that's taking place that is merging, I think, really three core forms of technology. One, the idea of assets and real estate and the value of them and the way that you can improve them, especially in a sustainable way and an impact-oriented way, and something that's good for the planet. And then the idea of these new technologies like Web3 and the tokenization of value, which then allows people a co-ownership model that didn't exist before. And then the idea of the community itself having a significant value that just could otherwise not be monetized. There's no way to actually ultimately embrace that. And I see that is sort of maybe one of the first models I've seen that's trying to approach a solution for the living environment, the well-being of the physical body, the well-being of our basic necessities, and also a form of inclusion in the economic markets that would otherwise be excluded from. Do you think the technology and the expansion of that technology is ultimately helpful to your model?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. It gives us, just new tool sets that we can build new things with in the financial technology space.